Ah, Jerusalem.
What other city observes so many people arriving from strange lands and departing for fascinating places in one day?
The radiance of the springtime sun, piercing the foliage of Gethsemane, adds splendor even to Golgotha. Witness how it beams off the pinnacle of the temple, old Herod's pride and joy. Magnificent architecture.
All is normal in Jerusalem this morning. People bustling in the streets and the money changers have returned to the temple.
How I would have loved to have seen them with their bulging bellies scampering from the wrath of that man Jesus. Let it be known that those damnable Sanhedrin hypocrites did not dare charge him with attacking the greed of the temple crowd. If for this they wanted him killed. Their prestige in Israel was diminished because of him, so they fabricated this opposition to Caesar business.
Did anything about his chasing the money changers seem strange or mysterious, Your Excellency?
Definitely. In the temple, he was militant and aggressive. Before me, he was pathetically mild. Offered little in his own defense.
Fortunately, the palm parade came to nothing. Your maneuvering of that mob was brilliant.
Claudia. Oh, my dear precious Claudia, your eyes are still red from weeping, and you continue to refuse nourishment. I was so happy when Rome permitted you to accompany me to this miserable outpost of the empire. But now I don't know. I don't know.
You would be happier had I remained in Rome?
It had not occurred to me that you would embrace the faith of Israel.
It's a glorious faith, a living faith.
From what I have observed of the faith of Israel, I might be more impressed with its morality were it not for the hypocrisy of its leaders.
Is that why you paraded the medallion of Caesar, a symbol of emperor worship, through the streets of Jerusalem?
I have never been certain of my authority here, either in the sight of Israel or Rome.
You could have prevented the execution of Jesus. You admit that you found him innocent.
Why do you torment me with such accusations? You know I wanted him spared. You know I offered to have him freed.
The authority was clearly yours. Why did you abdicate it?
When I presented that mob with the choice of freeing Jesus or Barabbas, I felt certain they would choose Jesus, in light of how he was hailed by the multitudes at the Palm Parade. I doubted they would want one so highly acclaimed to go to the cross.
Those who cheered Jesus at the Palm Parade were not present at his trial. No voices were raised in support of him. You released Barabbas, who committed treason against Rome, and convicted Jesus, who had taken no such action. How would you explain that to Caesar?
I felt the scourging would satisfy the Sanhedrin's bloodlust. And after viewing his weak and mutilated body, they would consider the trial closed and depart in peace.
Regardless, Pontius, the decision was yours to render, although the Sanhedrin must share the guilt. And that little hand-washing ceremony? Whom do you think you are fooling?
Caesar has made it unmistakably clear that he wishes his procurators to avoid punishing innocent persons, condemn treason, and to keep the peace. In the Jesus trial, there was no way I could comply with all three demands. Had I released him, the Sanhedrin would have accused me of abetting treason and incited the mob to riot, thus disturbing the peace. What then would have been my rating with Caesar? How many would have acted differently in my place? How many in the empire of Rome placed principle above self-interest? And observe what happens to them when they do. Your friend Jesus, for instance?
I have no quarrel with Caesar's protecting the innocent, condemning acts of treason, and preserving the peace. The chief complaint of many Israelites seems to be the burdens and taxation he has imposed on them. After all, Rome permits Israel to govern itself, except in matters of execution, and Caesar grants religious freedom to Israel, something he has denied all other subject nations.
That's true. Many Israelites affirm they fare better under Rome than did their forebears under Babylon and Syria. Still, I'm far from convinced that Caesar deals fairly with me.
May I remind you, Pontius dear, Caesar Tiberius has not dismissed you from his service, nor has he punished you for actions which have highly infuriated him. I know how hard, and perhaps too hard, you have tried to win his praises and blessing. I know that you bask not in the sunlight of his favor, and I doubt that you ever will. Dread for what might be in store for you. I wish you had never been appointed to the post of procurator.
I beg to interrupt, Your Excellency. Caiaphas is here and he says he must see you. He seems highly agitated.
Now why has that offspring of perdition come to plague me? Show the viper in.
He wants to see you outside. You are aware he would consider himself, offended should he enter the praetorium.
Let him be offended. Let him be damned. If he wishes to see me, here I am and here I shall remain.
Your Excellency! Your Excellency!
I am not honored by your presence. Be brief.
It is far from my desire to distress Your Excellency, but I have a most agonizing development to report. Rumors abound all over Jerusalem that Jesus, who died the death of a criminal, is alive and may be in the city.
And you believe that?
Not by all the stars shining over Israel do I give any credence to that report.
Then why does it distress you so mightily?
Well, may I remind you that at his trial he declared that he would rise from the dead. He worried lest the disciples steal his body and claim he was alive. So we decided to look over his tomb from time to time.
For what reason? You know I have soldiers designated to guard the tomb.
Yes, Proctor, but we saw no soldiers. No, you found the tomb empty.
Are you certain you observed the correct tomb?
Oh, yes, Your Excellency.
Could he be risen? Has he risen from the dead? A parade viewer told me that Jesus predicted he would be resurrected.
How do you account for what you allege you discovered in Joseph's garden?
The disciples are responsible. We warned you about that.
Nonsense! Utter nonsense! You above all know that they hide fearing for their very lives. Aside from that, how could they have gotten by the guarding soldiers? Now, supposing the Sanhedrin stole the body to lure the disciples from their hiding place.
No. I swear by all the prophets of Israel that the Sanhedrins had nothing to do with this disappearance.
Then what if he is alive? How will you miserable bloodsuckers explain that to the Israelites? Oh, how I would love to hear your stammering.
Oh, he is surely alive. I feel it in my head, in my heart, and in my bones.
No, it cannot be. It cannot be. But, Proctor, what are you going to do about the empty tomb?
If he is alive, there is very little you or I can do about it. I want those soldiers brought to me. Also circulate in the streets and bring to me anyone who claims to have seen this Jesus alive.
Oh, hasten, Donato. I can barely contain myself.
May I assume that you will take proper measures to silence all those who proclaim this resurrection?
The only ones I wish to silence at this time are you and your contemptible religious associates. If there be a God, as you Israelites contend, he must be as bored with you as I am.
But you have a duty to determine...
You dare speak of my responsibility, you despicable specimen of swine! You make it your responsibility to facilitate the execution of an innocent man and then expect me to relieve your anxiety. Dead or alive, this Jesus is a threat to you. When did your people ever proclaim you in the Sanhedrin with a palm parade?
But he claimed to be king, and we have no king but Caesar.
You are to leave my presence immediately, and I want no further communication from you or the Sanhedrin pertaining to this man Jesus.
Take heed, Pontius Pilate. Take heed. Rome is watching you.
Have you forgotten how forcefully I can deal with obstructionists in Israel? Do you need a further demonstration?
Now that Jesus is alive, I will have no more of those dreadful dreams. And I want to see him. Oh, how I want to see him.
You mentioned seeing him before his trial, but I confess I wasn't listening.
I only saw him from a distance, but I strained to see him healing people. The sick, the lame, and the blind. Also, I watched him at the palm parade.
Where are the soldiers, the witnesses?
The guardian soldiers in a state of shock, Your Excellency. They cannot communicate with you now. The only witness I have, Your Excellency, is one who showed much love and gratitude for this Jesus during his life in Israel. It seems he healed from an affliction of the mind, which the Israelite describes as demon possession, but we Romans consider as madness. She traveled with him and the disciples. She did not go into hiding when Jesus was arrested, as did the disciples. She watched him on the cross. And she's not afraid of Your Excellency. Her name is Mary Magdalene.
Oh, Mary Magdalene.
Do you know this woman?
No, but I saw her from a distance with Jesus.
Usher her in so I may dispel these ghostly rumors.
Please be gentle with her, Pontius. You will find a kindly approach rewarding, I am sure.
You may approach and be seated. It is my understanding that you and this Jesus had an endearing relationship.
Oh, he was and is my entire life.
Well, I doubt not your reward in following him prior to his execution. But now you claim to have seen him risen from the dead? This far exceeds all claims I've heard from these strange Israelites. Now let us be logical. Perhaps you saw a ghost, or witnessed a hallucination.
No, I saw him. I saw him more gloriously than I had seen him before his death. He is alive, I tell Your Excellency. He is risen from his grave.
Wonderful! How joyful and wonderful!
Who else claims to have seen this Jesus this morning?
I haven't heard anyone tell of seeing him.
Well, what about all these rumors I've been hearing?
I told everyone I met about his resurrection.
And the disciples?
Peter and John were with me in Joseph's garden this morning. They witnessed the empty tomb. I saw my risen Lord following their departure from the garden. The other disciples are still in hiding. I told them about Jesus commanding me to inform them of his resurrection. But they have their doubts.
That Sanhedrin fool tried to persuade me that the disciples stole the body from the tomb. Where hide your disciple friends?
I will not reveal their whereabouts to you or any other mortal. However, it is my expectation that Jesus will visit with them, and he will make himself known to others in Jerusalem before the ending of this day.
Your sincerity, frankness, and passion impress me deeply. I'm happy you're in my presence. As I cannot accept your conclusion about this Jesus, I fear I shall be haunted the rest of my days by the mystery surrounding him. I am famished. You can be certain Herod has dined well this morning, and I need my food. Would you care to join me now that you no longer lament for your Lord?
Not now, dear Pontius. Oh, please, Mary Magdalene, stay a while. I too believe that Jesus is alive again. Even though I never met him and only saw him from a distance.
I was thrilled with your exhilaration and conviction during my conversation with His Excellency. But as the wife of Pontius Pilate, how do you propose to devote your life to my Lord?
How I wish I could clearly and concisely answer your question. It will be difficult. Most difficult, I fear.
Situations may arise where you need to choose between serving Jesus and being loyal to Pilate.
I do love Pontius. At night, I watched him in anguish pace the Praetorium. When the people of a country subject to Rome wish to rid themselves of a procurator, they accuse him before Caesar of treason. Every procurator dreads the day this might befall him. Caesar deals furiously with those whom he perceives as being traitors. As you know, Pontius is very unpopular among the Israelites.
Devotion to our Lord doesn't require ceasing to love the human objects of our affection. Indeed, quite the opposite is true. We are to love everybody. But our primary love must be for him.
Pilate is not without virtue. Always hear about his cruelty, his callousness, his ruthlessness as his subjects wish this was not true. But he also wants to serve justice. And he is impressed when he witnesses a moral courage, sacrificial love, and compassion. The trouble is, he doesn't think deeply about these things. This, I believe, is why he let Jesus die.
I am truly impressed by what you have revealed to me, and please do not doubt my sensitivity to your dilemma when I again ask, how can you serve both the Lord and Pilate? Wait. There are some servants of Caesar who also serve my Lord well. A Roman centurion built a synagogue for us. My Lord healed his son of a deadly disease. And there is Joanna, a true follower of his, whose husband is on Herod's staff.
Herod's entire life is obsessed with serving Caesar. He will never let anything interfere with his pursuit. I am sure there will be conflict between us over my loyalty to Jesus. Although I know his affections for me run deeply, I must prepare to suffer for Jesus, as he is prepared to suffer for Rome.
Oh, I truly believe Jesus has enough for every disciple. I wish to share much with you as we serve our Lord together.
I was wondering about your first meeting with Jesus.
He healed me. He healed me of a disease that had made life unbearable for me. It was as though I were divided into two parts, and my parts were at war with one another. Likewise, there was a deep sadness within me and a despairing spirit. During the healing process, his wondrous love overwhelmed me, and he became my life. I followed wherever he went. He lived his uplifting and inspiring preachings and teachings. His compassion led him to feed 5,000 starving people. And he was so warm and kind with women, being the only religious man I've known who would converse with women. And he treated us with dignity, integrity, and respect. Unlike those Pharisees, he was merciful to sinners. And he was so patient and tender with the disciples. His courage knew no bounds. I will live for him. And if need be, I will die for him.
Now that Jesus is alive, how shall we love and serve him?
Oh, I cannot answer that question. There's a mystery in the air this morning. My Lord spoke to me of ascending to his Father, as though he will be leaving us. Oh, I don't understand what all this means, but I am sure that Jesus will inform us as to how he wishes us to serve him. He did prepare the disciples to preach, to teach and heal.
I don't understand his leaving us.
I heard that he told his disciples that he would be returning to his Father in heaven. There he would prepare a place for all his followers to join him.
How shall we join him?
After our deaths, I assume. He did warn that some will die for their allegiance to him.
Why wouldn't everybody want to be with Jesus in heaven?
Oh, I lack words to convey what meeting you has meant to me, dear Claudia. I must now take leave of you, but I believe the days ahead will see us together again. I want to know when the disciples see Jesus. Once that happens, they will have no fear of leaving their place of refuge.
The Lord
I wonder if you will ever know how much I love you. What I fear for our future together.
I have fears of my own, yet my affection for you has never been greater.
I worry how Rome will view the followers of the Galilean.
All we desire is to live with him and for him. We are not given to violence, neither do we challenge the authority of Caesar to rule Israel.
Yet your morality and principles are in direct opposition to some of the way in which he rules. Are you prepared to be faithful to a Jesus who has been rejected by the ruling body of the Jewish religion, and insofar as I am concerned is dead?
It is to he to whom I shall remain faithful, not the Sanhedrin. And I believe this will be true of all his followers. If he is not alive as you contend, there would be no purpose for any to follow him.
I seem to sense the emergence of a new religion. I don't need to remind you of the fate of those who openly defy Rome. And in this new religion, many will suffer and die even before facing direct Roman hostility. The Sanhedrin will see to that. Sometimes, the enemy within the household of faith is the greatest enemy of all.
You have learned so much about the religion of Israel, but up to now you have been unwilling to talk with me about it.
I was preoccupied when you saw me before. If Rome had not granted these religious freedoms to Israel, we would not be going through this strife. These Israelites are a strange people. Nearly every problem they present to me has a religious connotation.
Pontius, it affords me nothing but grief to recall how you have tormented many Israelites who have not opposed Rome with their religious practices. And what possessed you to commandeer money from the temple for your water projects?
I have seen manifestations of justice and mercy in the faith and practices of Israel when unhampered by the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees, and zealots such as Barabbas who incite insurrection against Caesar. But I fear that loyalty to this Jesus will ultimately clash with subservience to Rome.
And how, my dear Pontius, in the event of this, will you function for Rome? What will it mean in our household?
I'm barely able to please Caesar even in small ways. Should he learn of your living and breathing in opposition to his ordinances and proclamations, I dread the consequences for both of us. I should likely be summoned to Rome for dire punishment or even execution. Should I receive a lesser sentence of censorship and be allowed to remain on as procurator, I would have no choice but to banish you from my presence. Should this fail to placate his imperial majesty, you would be put to the sword.
I wish that you would accept Christ, so that we might live and die together. But if you choose to remain loyal to Caesar, I will love you as deeply as ever, even as you inflict suffering upon me. I die for Christ. I will have truly lived. I wish you too could have tasted the true joy of living. I kiss you unto life. I kiss you unto death.